We've got another big F1 driver market story, and this time we're not actually talking about Charles Leclerc, who's finally been confirmed at Ferrari, but we've already talked about that one. We've already done a video, and somewhere on the screen we'll have a link to that appear round about now. So if you want to watch that and find out what we think about Charles Leclerc's move, we're quite positive, you can find that video and watch it already. But we're here to talk about the knock-on effects of that, which are Kimi Raikkonen is in Formula 1 for 2 more years, and he's going back to Sauber where it all began. I've got Autosport's Andrew Vanderberg and Ben Anderson with me. Gents, are we surprised? Now, I know that we heard that Raikkonen could end up being pushed back in the direction of Sauber, but did we ever think he'd accept it?
I am surprised by this. I'm a little bit misty-eyed because there's this romantic notion of Kimi going back to where it all began, and it does make sense on many levels, but for a driver who says he always thrives on the opportunity to win races, to compete at the front. Okay, he hasn't been that successful in winning races for a long time. It just seems like an unusual step. Sauber, although they're growing again and they're improving rapidly, they aren't going to provide him with a race-winning car in the next 2 seasons.
Yeah, I'm definitely a bit surprised. He'd always spoke about wanting to be in it to win races, and as you say, barring a miracle, that's highly unlikely to happen at Sauber. But I think I could sort of admire him for wanting to carry on and still having the passion for racing. And
it certainly eliminates any questions about his desire, doesn't it?
Yeah, and a 2-year deal as well. It's not just like, a little top up of the pension fund where he goes off and does whatever. But I think it's a really good move for Sauber because they have a very good benchmark of where they are, an established guy who, if you actually speak to the people in the paddock, apparently his feedback is really strong and technically, he might not be the most charismatic outgoing in front of the camera, but apparently inside when it comes to actually, nailing down the details on the mechanical feedback, he's great. So I think it's a really positive move for them.
Yeah, there are many Kimi believers in the paddock, experienced engineers who've worked with him closely, and they say he is the guy to follow if you're looking to establish a technical direction. If you trust in his feedback and listen to him carefully, you will improve the car. And there is a trend of cars improving during his spell within the team. So for Sauber, who are looking to kind of lift their level and get back to the front end of Formula 1's midfield, he's a very good reference point to have in there.
So that's what Sauber get out of it, which is a key question. What does Raikkonen get out of this? Because as you've said, there is no way he's going to be fighting for victories next year. We're not in the kind of V8 era of F1 where Sauber would have good years and bad years, and we saw Sergio Perez getting on the podium, that sort of thing. We don't even expect that next year, no matter how steep their upward curve is. So what's in this for Kimi?
Well, he gets to extend his career for a start. He obviously feels that he's still got something to offer, and he's always said he would only stop racing in Formula 1 on his own terms if he felt he could no longer do the job. Now, you can debate the merits of his performances against Vettel in the same car at Ferrari, and he hasn't been as good as Vettel. He's come up short. It's ebbed and flowed a bit. 2016 he was very close, last year a bit further off, this year a bit better than he was last year. But at Sauber he gets to race in an environment that's much less pressure, in a kind of team that he would enjoy racing for. There's less limelight on the team, there are less media appearances, all the stuff, the peripheral stuff that Kimi hates doing, he'll have to do less of. And if he feels good enough to go on and people want to pay him for the privilege of driving his cars, then why not?
No, I think that's exactly it. He gets to race. He gets 2 more years of racing in a almost non-pressured environment where if he gets some really good results, hey, look at Kimi, he's finished 5th or 6th or whatever he's dragged out of it, and if it's mediocre results, the Sauber's not really up to it, unless he gets a real superstar teammate next to him that might blow him away, but I think that's probably unlikely now. I mean, if that's of the 2 seats at Sauber, this is the Ferrari one, I think it's unlikely that he's going to have a Giovinazzi or a next level superstar in waiting coming up.
Well, Giovinazzi's the ideal next topic for us to move on to, really. He's been doing a fantastic job for Ferrari this year on the race weekends when they quite often turn around a bad Friday into a great Saturday and Sunday. Vettel's giving him the credit for that, for the work he's doing at the factory. But does that mean he's become a victim of his own success, perhaps, and he can't be taken out of that Ferrari role, which means he doesn't get a race seat at Sauber?
It looks that way. I mean, I spoke to Giovinazzi at length during the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend when he was on free practice duty for Sauber. And he was very clear in saying that he doesn't want to be known as a sim driver. He wants the chance to prove that he's a proper driver on the track in Formula 1. But that said, the sim driver role now is more than just playing computer games. That is effectively test driver role. You know, you're doing setup work for the team, you're driving the car during the limited in-season tests that they have. And Giovinazzi has been credited by the race team, and particularly Sebastian Vettel, for helping turn Ferrari's weekends around sometimes with his feedback in the simulator. And that's a very, very valuable role he's performing there. And ultimately, I guess Ferrari feel that he's more valuable in that role than he is seeing how he gets on in Sauber.
It would certainly appear that way. I mean, they would have weighed up their various merits in performing that role. If they think that he's actually better suited to them.
And if they're about to lose Daniel Kvyat, who we think is going back to Toro Rosso.
Yeah. And they're not going to forsake that if they don't believe that they've got somebody else in the system that can perform that role.
And of course, there's still a chance that Giovinazzi could drive for Sauber. There's a seat open there, but I would say with Raikkonen now confirmed in one of those seats that we believe Ferrari has absolute say over, it looks less likely. So but we can't rule Giovinazzi out altogether.
Raikkonen and Giovinazzi would be a fantastic little lineup for Sauber next year, wouldn't it?
It looks really good as an up-and-coming team, definitely.